Go. When going becomes your modus operandi, life gets crazy good. Chapter 5. The man who dies with the most toys wins. When our love for money exceeds our love for the lost, we have lost. Paul warns us of this temptation when he writes in 1 Timothy 6, 9 and 10. But those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a snare and many foolish and harmful desires which plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all sorts of evil, and some by longing for it have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. End quote. The love for money, materialism, greed, etc. are all part of a very powerful strategy of Satan. I once heard a speaker say that he believed the strong man over America is greed. When he said it, my spirit concurred. The way to defeat this strong man, he continued, was through a lifestyle of generosity. The life of going requires one to live generously. Going requires the giving of resources, time, and comforts for the benefit of others. In my going to nearly 150 countries, there has only been one time when I returned with more finances than when I left. It was due to an extremely generous host and is definitely not the norm. We go not to receive, but to give. One of the best things that a parent can do for their kids is to take them or send them on short-term mission trips. Their child has been sitting in air conditioning, eating snack food at will, and playing on their Xbox all summer. When the time comes to pack for their trip for a week, what they are about to witness may rock their world. It can cause a seismic shift in their perspective of life. A few years ago, I took a team to Chile and saw this firsthand. I was with a group from Florida who come from an upper middle class area. During one of our ministry days, we took bags of groceries to an area where homeless people were living under a bridge. Needless to say, there was no air conditioning, snacks, or Xbox. Extreme poverty instead, including babies and the elderly. At one point, I saw a teenage girl from our group standing by herself, looking toward a ragged tent where a family lived, with tears rolling down her cheeks. Her perspective was being radically changed. Hopefully, once back home on the couch, the memory of this family living in a tent will remain. The hope isn't that she feels sorry for them, but that she will continue to go in generosity. Going impacts perspective like nothing else. Some years ago, I went to Cuba and stayed in a pastor's home. The pastor's son-in-law was leading a small house church in another town, and he really wanted us to go see it. So he took the 70-kilometer trip to this town and had a wonderful visit. The people were so kind and expressed how much they loved their pastor. It's when we headed back to where we were staying that we learned something that was hard to process. This young man made the 70-kilometer trip at least twice a week by bicycle. I complain about driving 25 minutes to church while this guy is riding his bicycle for hours to serve a small group of believers. I would have never been challenged to quit complaining and start enjoying the easy 25-minute trip by car had I not met this young man. The next evening, we had the opportunity to visit a small house church out in the countryside. We drove out in the dark and entered a home where we were shocked to see the place packed. They wanted to hear an encouraging word from some brothers in the Lord. It was humbling to be in the presence of people who were so hungry for the Lord that there was no need for special lighting, smoke machines, or soft chairs. We left that meeting and followed a young man and his wife to a secret meeting place a few miles away. We met under the light of a kerosene lamp, and he shared with us how he had just been beaten by the police earlier in the day. The police had also scared his wife and children by throwing rocks at their house. The young man literally shared all of this with a smile on his face as he expressed the joy of suffering for Jesus. These Cuban believers we met didn't have much when it comes to the things of this world, but they sure had a deep commitment to following Jesus. I was reminded of the words of a song, "Turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace." After Janet, Jen, and I returned from China, I was contacted by a pastor in Burundi, Africa, to come and lead a pastor's conference. Honestly, I didn't know where Burundi was, so I did a little research and agreed to go. With a modus operandi to go, I need a good reason to say no. That didn't happen, so I went. During one of the days I was there, my host and another pastor took me out to visit a small church that they had just started. The enthusiastic worship and beautiful smiles of the people were amazing. As we headed back toward the capital, Bujumbura, we pulled to the side of a road and climbed halfway up a mountain. There were some shacks spread out along the mountainside, and one of these included some believers who were part of the church we had visited. We walked into a 3-room home where 5 families were living. Each day the men would leave in the morning to go out and get food for the families. They were originally from Tanzania, where they had fled due to war. I still remember standing there when they broke out into a praise chorus at a high volume. These people loved Jesus, in spite of their extreme lack. The joy of the Lord was their strength. I know we are blessed in America, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying the luxuries of air conditioning, having your own car, and so much more. The problem comes when the luxuries become the focus of our lives. We never seem to have quite enough. We, quote, need, end quote, a newer phone, a computer with more memory, a fancier car, and the list goes on. One of the best ways of overcoming these common feelings is to go. We realize how most of the world lives and realize that we are super blessed. Last night, my wife and I went out to eat, and our biggest issue was trying to decide where to go. We have so many good options to choose from. As I was writing this chapter, I was reminded of a couple who I met in India. They were living in a small tent along a stream and had a little campfire going. The reason for the fire was because they were cooking dinner. The man had caught a rat out in the field, and that was going to be their dinner. What a difference from what I experienced last night. It's hard to really grasp how the majority of the world lives without going. Pictures just don't do it justice. Proverbs 30 verses 7 and 8 give us some great advice. It says, "Keep deception and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is my portion, that I not be full and deny you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or that I not be in want and steal and profane the name of my God." Materialism, or the love of money, is a deception that lies to us, saying the more we have, the happier we will be. So untrue. The best way to expose the lie is to go. When we go, we see the tragic results of brokenness in our world, but we also see Psalm 30, verse 11 come to life. "You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosed my sackcloth and girded me with gladness, that my soul may sing praise to you and not be silent, O Lord my God. I will give thanks to you forever. The dictionary defines materialism as a tendency to consider material possessions and physical comfort as more important than spiritual values. In an article entitled, quote, How Gratitude Beats Materialism, end quote, Dacher Keltner and Jason Marsh states, research suggests that materialistic people are less happy than their peers. They experience fewer positive emotions, are less satisfied with life, and suffer higher levels of anxiety, depression, and substance abuse. Obviously, the article referred to considers the developing of a thankful attitude as key in overcoming the results of materialism. What I have found is one of the best ways to develop a thankful attitude is to go into all the world. You see how much you have to be thankful for, and you are awestruck with the awesomeness of God, His creation, His variety revealed through cultures, and His omnipresence make obedience to His word the only wise decision. As you live a generous life, the act of going will become more and more common. As you go, the faith to go will grow. But some may say, you can't go there. We'll look at the places you can't go to next.